All right, I can't believe what I'm about to play for you. 2 days ago, friends started texting me saying, David, sir, are you watching this congressional hearing? The presidents of Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania are being asked, if people on your campus call for the genocide of Jews, does that violate the code of conduct for bullying and harassment? And not a single one of them said yes. And I thought to myself, there must be missing context here. There's absolutely no way that this is what happened. And it is exactly what happened. Now, I know there are people who are going to write to me and say, David, this is actually about Palestinians, or this is about Gaza, or this is about none of those things. This is about a problem that even Harvard now acknowledges what was said as a problem. Okay. So this is not just people saying this was a problem. And the blowback was so severe from the inability of these school presidents to just say, yeah, you can't call for genociding an ethnic group on campus. You just can't do it. Look at this. Look at this.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
When you say, are people listening to this? Have we gone crazy? There are chants calling for eliminating the Jewish people. They might be anti-Semitic. They might be harassment, depending on the context. Oh, I wonder if that would be applied to other groups.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? How do you turn the speech of calling for genocide of Jews into conduct? Is she saying if they start trying to kill Jews, then it would be harassment? Well, but then it would be attempted murder, wouldn't it? What is happening?
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or
becomes
no?
if the speech becomes conduct,
oh God,
it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
It sounds like what she's saying is a group of students with signs saying, kill all the Jews, is okay as long as you don't get really close to a Jewish student with the sign, because then it's, what exactly are they saying? And I know that this is going to become a partisan thing about Israel and Gaza and Hamas and all these different things. It's not about that. Imagine replacing, are you allowed to call for the genocide of blacks on campus? Well, it depends on the context, just kind of depends. If it goes into conduct, then we would investigate it as harassment. Really? Oh, wow. Are you allowed to call for the genocide of women on the campus? It depends. It depends. You're certainly allowed to hold signs calling for the genocide of women, but if it starts to be intimidating, well, isn't the very fact that the signs are being held intimidating in and of itself? And there's this idea that it's all about the context. Not everything depends on context, okay? And what we have is a situation where, for a long time, these public statements that have been made about, the George Floyd was murdered, okay? And the schools put out a statement and they denounce racism towards African Americans. Okay. Roe v. Wade is overturned. And there's a statement put out denouncing choice being taken away from women. These were statements which were really pretty easy statements. And you take a stand and basically everybody feels the same way. And it's all under the pursuit of some version of inclusion, and we're not going to offend and all these different things. And then all of a sudden, you have a different situation where these college presidents clearly are trying to sort of walk a line where they don't want to be seen as making a commentary, maybe about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that isn't actually about that. It's just, what groups are you allowed to target with signs calling for genocide on campus? We know they wouldn't allow it with women. We know they wouldn't allow it with blacks, and rightly so, by the way, calling for genocide of groups. But now when it comes to Jews, well, it sort of depends, and I'm not really sure, and there's a lot of different opinions, and there was a very easy answer to give here, and Harvard is now suffering some insane blowback. They put out the following statement after this disaster where they said, quote, "Statement from President Gay. There are some who have confused a right to free expression with the idea that Harvard will condone calls for violence against Jewish students. Let me be clear. Calls for violence or genocide against the Jewish community or any religious or ethnic group are vile. They have no place at Harvard, and those who threaten our Jewish students will be held to account." And again, even this statement, it recognizes that she really messed up, but it doesn't really say it's not allowed. Well, they're going to be held to account. Account might be nothing. They're saying that the statements are vile. Well, okay, but are they allowed? This was such a failure. And, I am not one of these people on the right who says higher education is liberal indoctrination and college sucks and it's terrible and we don't need it and no one should go to college. It's much the opposite, much the opposite. And in fact, I am one of the biggest advocates of getting more people, if they want, access to higher education at lower cost. It's not me doing that Paul Ryan thing. The colleges are liberal indoctrination. I don't care about the politics or the party or any of it. I care about the fact that this is such a simple question. You can have any view you want about what's happening in Israel and Gaza, about settlements, about Netanyahu. But when we say, well, genocide calls might be okay depending on the context, they've jumped the shark. And I don't know if that's a term everybody's familiar with, but the blowback has been appropriate. People on the left and right disgusted about this. And hopefully we see more serious corrective statements issued. If you disagree with me, oh boy, I can't wait to see the comments. Let me know. So I wrote another book for kids. The first book was Think Like a Detective. The point of the first book was to teach kids critical thinking, which Republicans don't want them to learn, because when kids learn critical thinking, they don't vote for Republicans. The new book is Think Like a Scientist. This is a fun adventure teaching kids the scientific method. Again, Republicans aren't big on kids learning the scientific method because when they do, they're less likely to fall for Republican lies about climate change and vaccines and so many other things. You can get the new book as well as the first one at davidpakman.com/book. This is part of the Adventures in Thinking series. Can you imagine that we're doing this? We are. davidpakman.com/book. 13,500 copies of the first book have sold. I'll bring you an update soon on sales for the second book. Think like a scientist. davidpakman.com/book.